landscaping, multi-million-dollar homes tucked behind iron gates and tall saguaro cacti. The kind of neighborhood where the biggest concern most mornings is whether the sprinklers are on the right timer. It sits just north of Tucson, Arizona, elevated, serene, and deliberately private. It's the kind of place people move to when they want to feel safe. But on the morning of January 27th, safety was nothing more than an illusion. At exactly 1:47 in the morning, something happened on East Placida Baja, a quiet residential cul-de-sac nestled in the hills. The kind of street that doesn't see foot traffic. The kind of street where strangers are noticed. Surveillance cameras from nearby homes later captured movement in the darkness, movement that didn't belong there. And by the time the sun rose over the Santa Catalina mountains, Nancy Guthrie was gone. Nancy Guthrie, a wife. A mother. A woman known in her community as kind, measured, and deeply grounded. She had lived in the foothills for years. She knew her neighbors. Her neighbors knew her. She had a routine, the kind of comfortable, predictable routine that most of us build without thinking twice about it. She walked her dog. She ran her errands. She came home. That was Nancy. But on that night, her routine became the weapon used against her. Investigators working this case aren't treating it like a random act of violence. They never were. Bob Kager, a retired SWAT commander with decades of law enforcement experience in the Tucson area, spoke publicly about what the early evidence suggested. His assessment was blunt and deliberate. This was not opportunistic. This was not a robbery gone wrong. This was not someone who simply happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was targeted. This was intentional. This was planned. Those three words carry enormous weight in any criminal investigation. They shift the entire framework. They tell detectives that somewhere out there, a person, or persons, spent time studying Nancy Guthrie. They watched her. They mapped her movements. They calculated the risk. And then they acted on a schedule they had designed themselves. That kind of premeditation doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in a week. It requires patience, access, and a level of operational thinking that most people never associate with suburban crime scenes in southern Arizona. And yet, here we are. Let's talk about a house. A vacant house. Less than a mile from Nancy Guthrie's home sits a property that sat empty in the weeks before her disappearance. Investigators quickly identified this location as what they believe was a staging point, a position of observation. Close enough to monitor. Far enough to remain invisible. Now here's where the timeline gets complicated. According to one account, the renters who had previously occupied that house left in early January, weeks before Nancy vanished. But a second version of events tells a different story. Neighbors, people who live on that street and notice when things feel off, reported seeing someone around that property long after it was supposed to be empty. Not just a shadow. Not just a car. A person. A man. Described as wearing a hat pulled low over his face, moving deliberately, keeping to the edges where the light doesn't quite reach. Two different timelines. Two different versions. And in criminal investigations, when the timelines don't match, that's where the truth usually hides. What did the neighbors see exactly? What nights did they see it? Was it one person or more than one? These are the questions that Tucson police and federal investigators are still working to answer. But what they do know, what they have confirmed, is that the area around that vacant house is directly tied to this case. It is not a coincidence. It is a detail. And in a case like this, details are everything. Let me walk you through what investigators believe happened in the weeks before January 27th. January 11th, surveillance footage from the neighborhood captures unusual activity, a vehicle that doesn't belong, moving slowly, stopping without apparent reason. Investigators believe this was a reconnaissance pass. A test run. January 24th. 3 days before Nancy disappears. More unusual activity. A different time of night. A similar pattern. This wasn't exploration, this was confirmation. Whoever did this was checking their work, making sure the timing was right, making sure the escape routes were clear, making sure Nancy's routine was exactly as they had cataloged it. This is how professionals operate. They don't improvise at the last moment. They use a staging area, a fixed point from which they can monitor a target remotely without being in direct line of sight. From that location, they observe. They map the rhythm of the household. When does the dog go out? When do the lights go off? When is the street completely empty? They answer all of these questions before they ever make their move. Now, the FBI has expanded its investigative net significantly. In recent weeks, agents have been visiting local contractors and construction workers, people who would have had legitimate access to the Foothills area in the weeks leading up to January 27th. People who could be in the neighborhood without raising suspicion. People who might have seen something, or might have been seen by someone who doesn't yet know what they witnessed. The FBI doesn't make those kinds of visits casually. When federal agents start canvassing a specific workforce in a specific geographic window, it tells you something important. They have a theory. And they are working to confirm it. Here's what we know about the physical evidence, and here's what we don't know, and why that silence matters. DNA evidence has been collected. That much has been confirmed. What has not been confirmed, what investigators have deliberately withheld, is exactly where the DNA was recovered and what it connects to. In high-profile abduction cases, that kind of controlled silence is not accidental. It is strategic. Law enforcement withholds specific forensic details for one primary reason: to prevent a suspect from knowing exactly what they left behind. Think about that. If you are the person responsible for what happened to Nancy Guthrie, and the FBI hasn't told you what they found, you don't know whether they have your fingerprints, your hair, your blood, your clothing fiber. You don't know if a witness placed you near that vacant house on January 11th. You don't know if a camera caught your license plate on January 24th. That uncertainty is a tool. And law enforcement is using it. When the FBI goes quiet in a case like this, when official press releases become sparse, when investigators stop giving interviews, when the updates slow to a trickle, the public often interprets that silence as stagnation, as a cold case forming in real time. That interpretation is almost always wrong. Silence in a federal investigation typically means one thing: the case is active and intense. It means agents are following a thread they don't want to snap by speaking too soon. It means someone, somewhere, is under surveillance. It means the net is closing, even if no one outside that investigation can see it happening. Nancy Guthrie has been missing since January 27th. And the silence from the FBI is not the silence of a case going cold. It is the silence of a case getting hot. Right now, in some house, in some city, Nancy's family is sitting with a silence that has no words for it. A husband who reaches for someone who isn't there. Children who pick up the phone to call their mother and then remember. Friends who drive past her street and can't look at the driveway. This family is not just waiting for justice. They are waiting for the most basic thing any family should never have to wait for: just to know where she is. Just to bring her home. If you feel anything right now, if this story moved something in you, I want you to stop for 1 second. Just 1 second. And say a prayer for Nancy. Say a prayer for her family. Ask God, whatever you believe in, ask that she is found. Ask that her family gets answers. Ask that whoever did this does not get away with it. And if you mean that prayer, if you truly mean it, type amen in the comments right now. Let Nancy's family see this video fill up with amen. Let them know that thousands of strangers, people who never met her, are thinking about her tonight. That she is not forgotten. That this world still cares. Amen. Say it. Mean it. And keep watching, because this case is not over. Let me leave you with this. In every case that has ever been solved, every abduction, every disappearance, every premeditated act that looked, at first, like it might be perfect, the resolution always came back to one thing. A single mistake. It might be a camera that the suspect didn't know was there. It might be a witness who was up late and noticed something they didn't report for weeks, until the right detective asked the right question. It might be a piece of trace evidence left on a surface the suspect never thought to wipe clean. It might be a phone that pinged a cell tower at the wrong time. No crime is perfect. Whoever planned what happened to Nancy Guthrie spent weeks, possibly months, preparing. They chose a staging area. They ran reconnaissance. They studied the neighborhood. They believed they had accounted for everything. They didn't. There is always one mistake. And when investigators find it, when the forensics align, when the timelines lock into place, when the witness comes forward with the detail that nobody else thought to mention, this case will break open. And when it does, the preparation that went into this crime won't protect whoever is responsible. It will convict them. Because premeditation isn't a defense. It's the most damning evidence of all. Nancy Guthrie's family is waiting. Her husband. Her children. The people who knew her and loved her and still cannot make sense of a January night that changed everything. They deserve answers. And they deserve to bring her home. So if you are watching this, if you live in the Catalina foothills, or if you spent time in that area in early January of this year, think carefully. Think about what you saw on January 11th. Think about what you saw on January 24th. Think about whether you noticed a vehicle that seemed out of place, a face you didn't recognize, something small and quiet that didn't add up. Because in cases like this, the person who solves it isn't always law enforcement. Sometimes it's someone exactly like you. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, contact the Tucson Police Department or the FBI's tip line directly. All tips can be submitted anonymously. This is the case code. We follow the evidence. We don't stop until there are answers.